welcome back to another Edge of Fate video. For those of you that don't know, I recently had the chance to visit Bungie HQ and get some hands-on time with the Edge of Fate early. I want to thank Bungie for having me and all the devs I had the pleasure of interacting with for being so welcoming and receptive to my feedback. I also wanted to drop a quick but necessary disclaimer that this is an early test build and anything covered is subject to change. I was able to view and cover all sorts of content from the Edge of Fate and wanted to quickly mention that there is going to be a playlist linked in the top right of the screen now where you can find all my content and videos related to the upcoming DLC. From new exotics, new Trials of Osiris weapons and other endgame loot, the new stat system, PvE abilities and mechanics, builds, new origin traits, which you can now enhance, different tiers of loot, you name it, you can find it all here in one condensed playlist. However, this video is going to be a big one. We're going to be taking an in-depth look at some of the endgame loot and weapon tier systems coming in the Edge of Fate. And when I say this is the best loot has ever been in Destiny, I do mean it. This stuff is very powerful. We're going to be taking a look at tier 5 gear today, what the different weapon tiers mean for guns, what benefits and cosmetic each tier has, etc. Also going to be taking a look into armor tiers, gear sets, tuning slots, and everything else. Let's lay it out for you guys, starting with weapons. We have 5 tiers of weapons in the Edge of Fate, each of which has an improvement over the previous tier. All of these are objective buffs and make the weapon stronger each tier. And at the highest tier, tier 5, we see some amazing cosmetic options, some of which are debuting for the first time in Destiny's history. So here's a quick visual comparison of a tier 1 weapon to a tier 5 weapon. As you can see, it's a night and day difference, and these tier 5 weapons are going to be the goal for any veteran Destiny 2 player. Of course, this is a comparison between the lowest and highest tier of weapon, so what comes in between these? Tier 1 weapons are entirely basic. You have a barrel, mag, 2 perks, a masterwork. There's nothing crazy here or out of the ordinary at all. Moving up to tier 2 weapons, these will drop with pre-enhanced traits and function just like today's crafted weapons do. Tier 3 weapons will have a third perk option for you to select from in both slots, as well as access to the all-new enhanced mods. Tier 4 weapons will have enhanced traits and mods and 2 perk options to choose from, as well as enhanced barrels and magazines for the first time ever in D2. Tier 5 weapons will have all of the above. You'll get enhanced traits, 3 perk options to choose from in both slots. You get enhanced barrels and magazines. You also get enhanced origin traits and then some sweet new cosmetics. Tier 5 weapons will be featuring a unique ornament just like our hollow foil and shiny weapons we've become accustomed to since Into the Light first introduced them. On top of that, tier 5 weapons are also going to introduce an entirely new cosmetic slot for kill effects. Think in the mind of a sweaty confetti enjoyer, you no longer need to sacrifice your mod slot to use this. You can always run a new enhanced mod as well as a unique kill effect. I want to note that these tier 5 shiny ornaments are always animated, and if you apply a shader that you really like the color scheme of, like Jack Arena or something that has no animation, you will get that new color scheme and still keep the cool animated moving effect. I personally love how much these tier 5 weapons have going for them and how much better they look, and I know I'll personally be grinding for all the best loot that the Edge of Fate has to offer. I showed a few examples in the video during the explanation, but if you'd like to see specific weapons and roles that are going to be available to chase in the Edge of Fate, I recommend you check out my Edge of Fate loot video that will be linked in the description below. You can also find this video on the Edge of Fate playlist if you'd like to open a tab and come back to it later. So now we've been through the different weapon tiers and what you can expect when you get a tier 1 to a tier 5 drop. Now it's time to take a look at the armor. There's also been a significant overhaul to the armor system in the Edge of Fate, and a similar tier 1 to tier 5 increasing quality system has been implemented. However, it is much simpler on armor than it is on weapons. A huge change coming in the Edge of Fate that will shake your world as a current Destiny build crafter, but take a deep breath, it's going to be okay. This might be a little hard to comprehend, so I'm going to use the most simple numbers I could find to showcase this. I touched on this briefly in my stats video, but as this video is gear specific, we're going to break it down in a little bit more detail. If we look at the weapon stat here and ignore the 86 points in the enhanced section, we have just a flat 100 weapons. These 100 points in the weapon stat give a 10% buff to reload and handling, so this gives us a nice easy round number to work with. Let's say for example we were stuck at an odd number like 69 weapons. In the old tiered system, which has existed for 11 years since year 1 all the way back in Destiny 1, you would have just rounded this down to 6 completed tiers and 9 wasted stats. This would have been a simple 6% buff to reload and handling and no benefit from the other 9 points. The way this is going to work starting in the Edge of Fate is that wasted stats actually don't exist, and instead you'd end up with a 6.9% buff to handling and reload speed, meaning those 9 stats are still benefiting you in some way. I love this change personally, and now that it's upon us, it's kind of crazy to me that they didn't implement this earlier, or we never questioned the tiered system we've always had before. I guess if it's all we've ever known, we don't really think about how much better the system could actually be. I find it really nice to know that every single point I have is going towards increasing my power and combat efficiency in some way. And although it may trigger your OCD to see those odd numbers in your build, I hope knowing your Guardian is more powerful as a result makes it a worthy trade-off to you. Also, if the whole 0 to 200 stat points and investing into an enhanced stat doesn't make that much sense to you right now, that's okay. We've put a ton of work into our Edge of Fate stats breakdown video, and I think it's a really detailed, well put together breakdown of the new system, which will be linked in the top right of the screen now, and you can also refer back to our dedicated Edge of Fate playlist. So now that we've passed that bombshell, let's get into the different tiers of armor. For armor, tier 1 to 4 simply determines how many stat points that piece of gear has. Tier 1 gear is pretty bad, and it progresses through tier 2 and tier 3 until you hit tier 4, which maxes out the stats you can get on a piece. There is a benefit of tier 5 gear, which we will get back to in a moment, but for now, I wanted to explain the new system of armor archetypes, what they each do, and what they mean. You may have seen some random keywords on gear in this footage, such as Gunner, Paragon, Grenadier, Brawler. So starting in the Edge of Fate, not only weapons, but armor pieces will actually have archetypes. As you can see, the archetype means the armor has two specific set stat spikes, a primary spike and a secondary spike. For example, you can see here the Paragon archetype has a primary spike in the super stat and a secondary spike in the melee stat. It's a pretty simple addition to the game, but I think it'll be a welcomed one when it comes to creating the correct build for you and really honing in on the customization. Another thing to note is that we will now have stats rolling on class items as a result of these archetypes. So you can grind for a specific one if you really want to bump out those stats. This does mean you'll have to grind new class items to get these new set stat spikes incorporated into your build, as they will not be retroactive apart from in one case. Quick side note on that one case, we pointed out to a dev that the community would probably be very unhappy if they had to regrind exotic class items for Prismatic just so they could get the stats. We spoke to a dev and they actually confirmed that this would be made retroactive as a result, but only on the exotic class items. You might have noticed that set bonuses are making a debut in Destiny after being requested for years, but we'll circle back to that in a moment. I briefly mentioned that tier 5 gear will have an additional bonus over the already stat capped tier 4 armor, which brings us to the all new tuning slot. On tier 5 gear, the maximum energy will now go up from 10 to 11, and it will have an entirely new slot called the tuning slot. Your gear is attuned to one specific stat that is random on a piece of gear, and this stat will be the one that is affected by the tuning slot. For example, on this Bushido's cowl helmet, you can see 3 lines by the health stat, meaning that health is the stat that we can influence using the tuning slot. It looks like there's a lot of options here, but there's actually only 2. It's pretty simple. Option 1 is balanced tuning. You can slightly increase the 3 lowest stats on this piece of armor at absolutely no cost. This will bump a simple +1 into your 3 current lowest stats on this piece of gear. It seems minimal, sure, but if you did this on 5 pieces, you're really getting +15 stats overall, so it could make a difference. Especially as there's now no wasted stats, it is just a net positive. Option 2 is what we're going to refer to as plus and minus tuning. Whatever stat that piece of gear is attuned to, you can sacrifice another stat of your choice to give it a bump. For example, a plus health minus super would take 5 points out of the super stat and bump it into more health. Last but not least, we have set bonuses. So first, we're going to show you and explain how they've been implemented, and then show some examples of bonuses you can get in-game by using multiple pieces from a specific armor set. Set bonuses are finally making their debut in Destiny 2 after being requested for years and years, and it's been implemented in a pretty straightforward system. Armor sets will have 2 benefits. You gain a bonus when you have 2 pieces of gear equipped, and you will also get a bonus if you manage to get 4 pieces of gear equipped from a single set. If you like the level 1 bonus from 2 different sets, say you got 2 pieces of the Bushido armor and 2 pieces of the tech set armor set, you would actually get the level 1 bonus from both sets. I really like that they capped the set bonuses at 4 so that your exotic slot is always free to use however you want to suit your build and game style. It kind of would have sucked to have a crazy powerful 5 set bonus that you really wanted to use, but in order to do so, you'd have to run no exotic. So yeah, small side praise to Bungie for having the foresight to cap it at 4. So I'm going to talk you through an example set to show you how these set bonuses work, and then just show a visual for the other sets so you can see what other bonuses will be available. So for this example, we're going to be taking a look at the Bushido Pinnacle gear set. And as you can see, with 2 pieces from the Bushido set equipped, we'll gain the buff Aido, I think I'm pronouncing it right. Final blows with freshly drawn or reloaded weapons will heal you. If we manage to get 4 pieces from the Bushido set equipped, we'll gain the buff Unfaltering Focus. Bow, shotgun, or sword final blows temporarily reduce incoming damage. Damaging targets with those weapons also extends this effect. I wanted to use this example as I think the 4 set has some viability in the Crucible. Shotgun usage has always been pretty high, and getting a shotgun kill granting you damage resist seems like a pretty neat bonus. But let's say you didn't have a full 4-piece set and your build had any exotic armor piece of your choice, you had 2 pieces of Bushido gear and then 2 pieces of tech set gear. You'd be able to grab the tier 1 bonuses from both of these gear sets as you have 2 of each, meaning both buffs Aido and Rekka would be active at the same time, even though they're from different gear set families. There were a couple more gear sets we had access to in the playlist, like the Aeon Renewal set, and I know you're likely wondering about the redacted Trials of Osiris set that you've seen the cosmetic appearance of in other videos, but understandably, Bungie wanted to keep that one a surprise for you guys to see when the DLC releases. Quickly wanted to mention the sources for the gear sets that I've been allowed to cover. Aeon Renewal is from the new Kepler Destination. Tech set is the set for the base PvE activities in the game. Bushido, which I'm using in most of this gameplay and we use for the example, is the Pinnacle set. And then finally we have the last Discipline set, which we were told is the base PvP set, But I'm actually also in the dark on this one. I didn't get to use it, I have no idea what the set bonuses are, so I'm curious. Put your game developer hats on and comment down below what you think would be a good 2 and 4 set bonus for a PvP gear set. So I know that was a lot of information for one video, so please do feel free to ask any questions in the comments down below and I'll try to answer. If it's a really good question, I can reach out to a developer for clarification and I'm sure they'd be willing to help. I did have a pretty limited amount of time at Bungie to record and cover these new systems, so ever since I got home and I'm working on these videos, I've had a lot of questions myself. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to drop a like and a sub, and a reminder that there is a playlist on the channel that is exclusively dedicated to the new Edge of Fate content. You can find this linked on the screen now or at the end screen of the video. Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today, and let me know what you think of the new systems, if this is a good addition to Destiny and it expands on the build crafting system. Hope to catch you on the next one. Peace!